And the current food system is failing to meet the needs of 2.4 billion people.
Whenever atheists are rejecting the God, they do a lot of blames. And one of the most famous blame on God is about hungriness. Atheists say that God promised us in Quran that I will feed everyone with eating and drinking. If God exists and He did this promise, then why every year thousands of people are dying due to hungriness? Is God brutal? Does God exist or not? Or just Muhammad, peace be upon, he wrote this in Quran from his own side that God promised us for food. This is the most famous blame of atheists that they are doing on God. But let's talk in this video that is this right that God is not completing His promise, or there is no God who promised us for food, or we human beings are doing something wrong. Remember this one point, that whenever a human try to divert from right path, then he make different proofs for himself, very foxily, just for this thing, to prove his wrong path as a right path. Remember that the objection on the feeding of Allah, it is not just objection, but this is one way and one trick of the atheist that make way to the side of rejecting the God. Atheists said that Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said that God promised us in this Quran that He will feed every human being and every species present in the world with food and drink. But obviously we can see that thousands of people are dying every year due to this hungriness. And atheists said that this point proves us that there is no God and no feeder and no one who promised us for feeding. This is a very dangerous part of the atheist. To understand the answer of this question, we have to understand first that how God promised us for feeding. And after this we will talk that why today world is facing hungriness. Is this the fault of Allah, or is this our fault? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. There is no species in the world, but Allah will feed. There is no doubt that God is giver of food and drink to every living thing in the world. But it doesn't mean that God will give food and drink to every living thing in mouth. But it means that God made the resources through which the human beings or any living thing in the world, they are getting their food and drinks. Scientists said that there are more than 8.7 million kind of species in the world. Just about 1.2 million species, which includes 4,500 bat animals that walks on 4 foot, 9,000 kinds of that animals which can fly, 28,000 of that kind of fishes which live under the sea, about 1 million of arthropods, and more than 10,000 kinds of lizards and snakes that human beings have knowledge about that, and more than 6 million species that present in this world, human beings don't have knowledge about that still. But God feed all these kind of species. You will never heard about any kind of species that are finished from this world due to the lack of their eat and drinks. Even if you just think about the human beings, have you ever heard from your grandfathers or from history of any time that human being faced the lack of the food and drinks all over the world? Exactly no. This is the big proof that God never broke His promise. But the hungriness that we faced still in this world, that is due to the different problems of humans that we will discuss in further video. But before this, let's talk about this, that how we can be satisfied that God had provided us the every source of eating and drinking. Just think about a single pomegranate. Mostly in every pomegranate, we can get 213 seeds. Through each one, we can get a large tree of pomegranates. Means that God have provided us the source of 213 trees just from one pomegranate. Think about guava. Mostly in the every guava, there are more than 150 seeds, through which with every seed you can get a single tree of guava. Think about tomato. From every tomato you can get 30 seeds, and from every seed you can get a single tree of tomato. If you just think about wheat, just from one wheat you can get about 110 wheat, and from every that wheat you can make further. So now just think in these processes that how God provide us a perfect sources of making our drinks and eats. Even after this, you are thinking that God never completed His promise. Whenever God had provided us these kind of huge sources to make our food and drinks, then why human being is facing the hungriness? God just not made a sources of our foods, but also made their laws. Whenever human beings are diverting from those laws, then human is facing the hungriness. I have given you a proof that this is not a fault of God, that human is facing hungriness. So let's talk about ourselves. There are many sources due to which millions of people in the world, they are facing such a hard time. But we will talk about some of them. The first one is a modern economic system. This economic system made a human being more materialistic in the world ever. Because in this system, everyone tends towards making more wealth, and no one is thinking about any other human. This is the greediness and materialism that human beings have got in the result of modern economic system. If you think about just Islamic economic system, it is necessary on every Muslim who is wealthy that he will give a zakat. Zakat is the limited money according to your quantity of wealth that as a Muslim you will give to the poor, and it is necessary on you. Just think that all over the world everyone is giving his money to poor. What do you think? Will there be any poor? But this modern economic system, even it made many Muslims materialistic, due to which they are not giving their money to poor. So how the poverty will decrease if we have this kind of situation in our societies? The second reason is an interest-based economic system. In the past 5,000 years, nothing has given the damage to the economic system of human being more than interest. In Islam, interest is called as riba. And riba, which means interest, it is strictly prohibited in Islam. This interest system is the reason that we can see even today that poverty is increasing day to day and rich is becoming more rich day after day. But human beings have legalized this interest-based system. Just ask this question from yourself, that the interest system would badly damage the economic system for poor. Is this system the fault of God, or is this the fault of ours? Inshallah, in next video we will talk about this, that why riba, interest, is strictly prohibited in Islam and how it damages the society. In very simple way we will understand this. Let's come to the third reason, that due to which the human being is facing poverty in this time. And that third reason is a robbery. When I'm talking about this robbery, you will must think about the street robbery. The robbery is not just in the streets, but even on the governmental level, we have this robbery system, which badly damage our society and economic. A man by the name of Matthew White, he wrote a book by the name of The Great Big Book of the Horrible Things, in which he had discussed the 100 bad incidents came in the history of the human beings, in which on the fourth number, this writer discussed the brutalization of the Britons on subcontinent. He said that after the brutalizations of the Britons, more than 22 million people that died due to the hungriness, and the main reason was the brutalization of the Britons. Just not the subcontinent. Think about the Afghanistan, that America came for robbery, and millions of peoples, they lost their jobs. Millions of kids, they lost their parents, who were one of the big source of their food and drinks. We were those people who who went there and broke their shops and burned their gardens. And now today we are blaming the God, that God is not feeding the human beings. In Islam, it is strictly prohibited to take someone's wealth without his permission or to destroy his business. But in past few years, the Britons, Russians and Americans, what they did all over the world. They never cared about destroying anyone's business. They never cared about destroying anyone's home. They did what they want. But these are the peoples who are doing these kind of blames today. Was this the fault of God or the fault of our robbery that we did in different countries of the world? Let's come to the fourth point, and that is wasting money without need. According to one survey, people are wasting more than 1.3 billion tons of foods, which cost about $990 billion. If we just divide this money on all over the world, every human being is destroying $1.50 each day. In the daily food of a simple man, it can cost about $3. The poverty that people are facing, that is due to us, that is not because of God. According to one other survey, the scientists, they say that this world can support more than 10 billion people from every aspect of life. So now just think that the resources that we have discussed before, all that we have, if we use those resources and just exclude these mistakes that we have discussed before, will there be any single human being who will get hungriness? But remember that this is not the fault of a God. These are the human beings who made the modern greedy economic system. These were the human beings who made the interest-based economic system. These are the human beings who are doing robberies. These are the human beings who are wasting more than $990 billion every year. This is our fault. This is not the fault of Allah.